You're listening to The Wedding Whisperer with Sarah Burton of Simply Love Studio in Lexington, Kentucky. Today, I am back with Ian Goff, owner of Goff Tents and Events, to conclude our conversation about all of the key elements that elevate your event. Think tents, tables, chairs, linens, dance floors, and more. These are the pieces that tie your wedding together and ensure an unforgettable experience for your guest. And as you're looking at, whenever you get a quote for your rentals, as you're looking at your invoice, there will also be a damage waiver on that invoice. Walk me through what a damage waiver is when it comes to rentals.
So damage waiver is like rental protection. Aunt Susie gets a little excited at the wedding. She jumps up, she knocks over a glass of wine, breaks a glass, or spills wine all over the linen. If you've paid for that damage waiver, we're not going to come back to you and say, hey, you owe me $4 for a glass or $20 for a linen. That's going to be taken care of. That's just another way that we can ensure that after the fact that we're not coming back to you for nickels and dimes and things. Otherwise, we have to have you included on insurance or things like that. Now, if you're swinging out the center pole of the tent and you knock it down, that's completely different. But it's more of a peace of mind situation.
I actually have pictures up in the showroom.
Yes,
I know.
It can happen. We've seen it happen over the years. But yeah, it takes care of, a fork that gets thrown in the trash can, a charger that gets broke, napkins that you use to clean up someone that was overserved, things like that. It's peace of mind for the customer.
There was a wedding that I did, and it was, I don't know the exact song title, but Stacy's Mom's Got It Going On. So Stacy's mom was on the chair in the middle of the dance floor. I've had grandma and grandpa dancing on the table before. So those things, they do happen.
They are real.
Yeah. Can couples decline the damage waiver?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We just ask them to be named as additional insured. That way, if something does happen, and it's beyond the couple's means to take care of something that was damaged, we can be reimbursed for it. So we try to be fair. We understand things are going to happen.
Absolutely.
I mean, a chair can break for a lot of different reasons, not just because Stacy's mom. Could just be a manufacturer error. It could be a lot of different things. And so we're never trying to beat anyone over the head. And that's really what the damage waiver allows us to do. Sometimes there is no damage, and sometimes there's a lot. And that pool kind of just helps take care of everyone. So we don't have to go chase people down for a couple bucks, and they don't have to worry about after the fact, oh, we've got to put more money out that we didn't budget for.
Is the damage waiver like a certain percentage, or is it a flat fee?
It's 10% of them.
Okay. And then too, especially if you don't have a planner and you have mom and friends and aunts and all of the people helping, that's when stuff really starts to kind of go missing a little bit more because they got put in different places. And then mom's trying to text everybody, or it got sent to the wrong rental company going back. There are so many reasons why I think the damage waiver is important. It may look like a lot in the beginning, but replacing a Chiavari chair is how much now?
$50 to $70 depending on, freight. And sometimes we have to buy in multiples. You can't just buy one. So, it's just a way to make it be fair for everyone. And again, Aunt Susie's trying to wash dishes, or we've had it before where the caterer put all the dishes on one table, which was fine, but it rained. The table sank, all the glasses fell. Luckily it was only 30 or 40 pieces were broken. That couple didn't want the damage waiver because caterer was going to be taking care of that. Now they had to take care of that bill, whereas it would have just been, hey, don't worry about it. You already paid for this. Yeah. Or you paid for a certain percentage and now you only, you paid $200 in damage waiver. There was $240 in damages. It's $40.
And I often hear a lot of times couples will say, I feel like people are nickel and diming us. I feel like there's so many charges. Those are not there for us to make money. Those are there, honestly, to cover you at the end of the day. Because like you said, there are guests that climb the center pole of the tent. Those things really happen. And when you think you know your guests, those are going to be the ones that are, standing on the tables and standing on the chairs and that kind of thing.
We have actually changed our pricing structure to go to more fees because it allows us to keep the overall pricing lower. So saying, okay, we're going to charge to set up and break down chairs means if you want to save money, you can do that yourself. But if we didn't do that, then we would have to incorporate that into the chair, which means now everybody has to pay that price. So sometimes it does seem like you're being nickel and dime. Really what our goal is to be able to offer the most cost-effective pricing structure to all of our customers.
And talking about chairs, there is one particular venue, and I'm sure there's more, there's just one that comes to mind, that you rent for 4 hours in Lexington where you can have a ceremony and you cannot have anything dropped off day before or picked up later. It literally has to be dropped off, set up, and picked up that same day. When it comes to situations like that, where you have to bring in your crew on the weekend, you have to pay them probably what is overtime, especially if it's September or October. Is that something that you will even work with, or what do you do in those situations?
I like you said, we have a solution to fit any budget. We have to pay an hour minimum to our staff. So if they have to be 30 minutes worth of work, I'm still going to have to pay them 4 hours. So that cost has to be absorbed somewhere. So we're going to say to them, hey, listen, if this is what you want, these are the costs associated with it. Now, the alternative would be we can offer you a will call. You can come pick up those chairs on Thursday or Friday, whenever it's convenient for you. We'll get them loaded in a truck or a trailer or whatever. You set them up, put them back in the trailer. Can either bring them back, Monday morning, Tuesday morning, things like that. So we try to offer options that'll still allow them to get the items that they need at a price point that'll fit a budget. But sometimes that's what they want.
And talking about chairs and ceremony chairs, I have a close friend, and I would say probably 1 out of 5 or 6 times that we're out to dinner and I'm talking about work or something, she still references a wedding that she went to. It was a very nice wedding. It was a very nice venue where the bride made her guests carry the chairs from the ceremony through the reception. And so before we started the podcast, I texted her. I was like, hey, can you remind me which venue this was? And her literal response, she told me the venue name. And then she said, I get mad just thinking about it. That's what she remembers from that wedding. And, the least expensive chair now is the plastic folding chair, which are actually very comfortable. It's what I'm sitting in now. And they're what, $2, $2.50? $2, yeah. So this is where we talk a lot about guest experience. Your guest experience is also very important. Yes, you want to have the aesthetic look, but you also want to make sure that your guests are not moving their chairs and their rentals and things like that in their dress and their heels. And, they've spent a lot of money to be there. They've given up their time, probably their Saturday. Make sure that they have the opportunity to enjoy it as well. An extra $200 to $400 may seem like a lot, but that's not what we want someone remembering from your wedding.
You probably just hit on the most overlooked aspect of any wedding is guest experience. Because everybody thinks the wedding is all about the couple. Let's be honest, it's really all about the bride. And that is true, 100%. But guest experience is so key to the success of the end result. If the guests show up, they have tremendous atmosphere. They have tremendous food. Everything, it's got flow. It's got feel. They're going to stay. The entertainment, the music, they're going to dance, they're going to enjoy themselves, and they're going to be there at the end of the night for that grand send-off celebration. And I know you've been to weddings before, and I've been there too, where there's 10, 15% of the people who are left at the end of the night because, they did buffets and they were guest number 150 in line to get their food. It was cold. There was nothing left. And nobody told them, said, hey, if you want to do a buffet, why don't we utilize this space? So let's do one here and one here. If we're going to do bar service, let's split this up. Let's move people around the room because it's going to force them to go to different places, to talk to different people, to have those conversations, those social interactions, those things that make these events so great. But it also means if you have 200 people, you only have 50 people in each space instead of 200 people trying to get at one place at one time. And it's just not fun. And if the guest is not having a good time, they won't stay. They'll leave. They'll go somewhere else.
I know it's not been too long ago that Purdon's posted a photo on Instagram where the couple actually had 2 tents that were side by side. I was like, that is brilliant. They had dining in one, they had dancing in the other, and you had plenty of room. And that was the first time I had seen that. And I actually really liked that idea.
It's got an atmospheric experience because some people don't want to be right up by the dance floor. They like to be back away where they can sit, they can have conversations, they can be with small group. You're going to have older people who don't want to be right up there. And then you're going to have the younger crowd who's going to want to be right front and center, to being able to offer those different atmospheres, utilizing some soft furniture, lounge area, things like that just adds to the experience that you can have at an event. And I think using multiple tents, it also means sometimes you don't have to try to cram everything into one space, and just letting that space out and that feel and atmosphere arise from that can make some really unique things happen at an event.
And then as far as like looking at 2025 and even looking at 2026 now, what are you seeing like trend-wise in the rental world?
I think you're seeing a return to some classic elements. I think the tuxedo, the black and white, and the wood and the rustic and the outdoors, that's always going to be part of Kentucky. But I think you'll see the whites, the ivories, the classics, those things that are just so elegant, that's really returning. You're seeing it even Amazon had the commercial over Christmas where the guy was singing, they put him on stage and they ordered a tuxedo. Seeing that return to prominence, because it's kind of been more dressed down. You've seen jeans and boots and jackets in that dress down. I think you're going to see that come back up to that really high-end look again. I think that feel is just going to be something because it is more accessible on the cost-wise. I also think you're seeing people do things with hats, where it was just the cowboy hat. Now, I mean, they've got some elegant twists where it kind of bridges the top hat into it that men are working with, and you see the women's derby hat becoming more of part of the normal apparel. So I think you're just going to see some new twists and spins on that, and I like that feel, that high class. I think we need that.
Same. I was looking at the Kentucky Bride website literally over the weekend, and I was noticing how many of the guys were actually back in tuxedos, and that made my heart really happy.
I can't wait for Tails and Canes to come back.
I'm ready for the Dumb and Dumber, the orange and the blue, personally. But whenever a couple is wanting to look at pricing for rentals or get a quote, I know that on your website, you do have, on the Curtin website and the Goff website, you have a catalog that probably has a lot of the options on there, so they can go on there and look at pricing. Can they actually pull up a quote on there?
So yes, and that's actually being worked on the back end now, that this year that will get even be a better experience for the end user. But we do have all the items available online with pricing, with pictures. So there's no hidden, we say it's this and it's that. So those things are out there, but we are working on that user experience piece to kind of give more of the Amazon cart. We're not really ready to let people confirm orders like
Absolutely.
because there's just too many variables, again, that we haven't discussed. You book a delivery for a Friday. We don't know when the rehearsal dinner is. We don't know if it's an Airbnb that they only have access for certain times. They don't understand what our scheduling already looks like. So we want to allow customers to be able to do things within the framework of being able to always exceed expectations.
And two, not being able to book online and because of delivery is one of those things. Like September, October, you cut deliveries off middle of summer because your delivery schedule's booked.
So we have weeks we've already cut off.
Oh, that's great. Okay, and it's January. Okay, I didn't realize it was that far out.
So I mean, there's always going to be those key dates, those sequential number dates. There's always something within a year that goes quickly, and I haven't looked at the calendar to see what that is this year, but I do know that I looked on our capacity calendar and saw that there was already some blockout dates.
And just because they're blockout dates for deliveries does not mean that you can't do will call and pick your stuff up.
When something is blocked out, it just means maybe a Friday delivery, but we will do a Thursday, we'll do a Wednesday, we've got Tuesdays, we do Saturdays. We're always willing to work with the customer to achieve the desired end result. But so the answer is always yes. We just have to figure out how.
All right. So that was actually planned to be my last question for you, but I'm going to circle back to one more thing you said that you didn't know was coming. You mentioned deliveries to Airbnbs. That has been a newer thing in the past few years. There are Airbnbs here that rent out for weddings, and then there are times where couples find Airbnbs and just plan to have a wedding there without telling them. As a whole, what are your thoughts on Airbnb weddings?
It's a trend that's going to continue. People see it online. It's kind of like something you probably don't know about, but Uber deliveries. We have for Wilco's, we have a lot of times people will send an Uber and we'll load it up with dishes or whatever it is and deliver it to them.
How do we not know this? How have you never said that?
Uber's amazing. You know, we use it sometimes if a crew is missing a certain part somewhere, we'll Uber it out to them, just not to have that person. But kind of goes with the Airbnb situation that you can actually have that stuff set up and have it Ubered out to there. It's difficult to work in those time confines because you never know when something can go wrong. You know, we could forget something. There could be traffic. There could be an accident. So many things. When you put very specific times on things, the margin for error is almost zero. And as we talked about earlier, almost 100% of weddings, there's error involved. So you just really increase the odds that it's something that we're not going to be able to solve absolutely immediately. You know, we don't have time to just run out to Target if you're up in the gorge and go get something and bring it back. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying if you do it, if you can get yourself extra time on the front and the back end, I think your level of success is going to be much higher.
And I think that the planning is probably, and there's strategicness that goes along with it is maybe a little bit more than you realize in the beginning when you start getting into the nitty and gritty of getting your vendors there, getting your delivery. So that's, again, another time when you absolutely need a seasoned planner to kind of handle those things. And you talked just a second ago about how, mistakes happen at weddings because we're all human. One of the things that I always recommend is, and I'm sure you do as well, for your planner to count everything when it arrives, count all the dishes and the plates and the linens, because it's easier to fix it on Thursday or Friday than it is on Saturday morning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why when we deliver stuff, we try to make sure that somebody's there to sign for it. But sometimes they've got to leave. So having that coordinated with your planner, definitely a key to the success. And we've made mistakes in counts. We've had customers before that they forgot to order a salad fork. And again, if we haven't had a lot of conversations with them, the conversations that you have with your vendors are paramount to the success of the event. You know, if we've talked about your menu and the word salad comes up, we should know that you need a salad fork. And I'm a guy. I can use one fork to eat my entire meal. My wife, not so much. And my children, they need 7 forks to eat one piece of meat. So, working with your vendors to know the things that you need are just going to make the outcome that much better.
I know we've talked about a ton of different rentals today, and we talk a lot about budgeting. Is there any way that we can give a couple like X amount that you should budget for your rentals in the beginning of the planning stages?
Yes and no. So excluding a tent, if we were going to break it down to a chair, a seat at the table, linen, we're going to say plate, forks, knives, spoons, glasses. There's a pretty broad range, and that can go anywhere from probably $10 to $20 a person. And that's based on if you're going to go with a white plastic chair, $2, a crossback chair at $10, which plate that you use, which glass. Are you going to have a water and a cocktail glass at each? Are you going to have a dinner fork and the salad fork? Is there going to be a spoon? There's so many different variables. And again, that's where we go back to the a la carte menu, because that range can be so broad, and it really just needs to be tailored to what the couple need for their event. So it's tough to figure out. When I saw your question, I racked my brain on that one because I've never actually, and I'm a numbers nerd, I've never actually sat down and put that together. And I sat and thought about, because you have to actually think about what's the cost of a seat at the table, not just the table, but if it's a $10 table with 8 seats in, what's that actual cost? And then we'll break that down. And again, that's part of the responsibility of of our sales team to be able to provide that information to a guest and say it could be in this range. And it's just based on what items that you want to have on the table or at the table.
And I feel like I have talked about having a planner so much, but I wanted to say one more thing about having a planner. Whenever your rentals are delivered to the venue, if the venue was not the one that was in charge of ordering them, it is not the venue's responsibility to count them and make sure they're there and to sign off on them. That is your responsibility or your planner's responsibility, whoever ordered the rentals. So please do not think that your venue coordinator is going to take care of that.
And if you haven't coordinated that with your venue, it's not the venue's responsibility to be there when the rental company comes. Because we do have that several times. A customer will order us to deliver chairs. Oh, okay, we're going to deliver to XYZ venue at 9 a.m. Friday morning. We arrive, no one's at the venue because you got to make sure that you coordinate that with your venue. So again, a planner, day ofs, all great. But if you can have a full service, I definitely think the success of the event and how much easier it's going to be on you, it's just going to be such a better experience.
It'll be a better experience for you and for your guests. So, Ian, thank you so much for joining me today. If couples want to look at some of the photos from your events, Goff Tents on Instagram, Purdon Rentals on Instagram, and then you have Facebook. There's TikTok and over Purdon's. I'm not sure about Goff.
Not yet.
Okay.
We're still working on that.
And then Purdon's has Pinterest. Does Goff have Pinterest?
I do. It's Goff_tent. So there'll be links on all the descriptions for those as well. And then, of course, our website, purdonrental.com, gofftents.com.
And then you have a showroom at Goff Tents in Nicholasville. You have a showroom in Lexington at Purdon, so couples can stop in like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5-ish.
9 to 5. And also at our Purdon's, our Lexington location, we have a design room, which is actually where we're sitting right now. One of the nice things about that is we allow either couples or planners, if they like to book the room, that they can come in whether or not they've got an order set up, that they can come and put the items on the table. They can gavel in and spread in. They can literally do mock-ups, and they want to spend 30 minutes to an hour just setting it up, taking it down, touching it, feeling it, seeing it. And we totally encourage that, and that's available to anyone who'd like to use it.
Awesome. Well, Ian, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It only took me 2 years to get you to do this, but I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
For more information about Simply Love Studio or to schedule your wedding consultation, go to simplylovestudio.com.